Plummeting into the bottom of the Great Orcus Labyrinth, Hajime Nagumo finds himself in utter despair. In hope that someone from above would come to his rescue, he desperately looks around for help. However, the only living creatures he can find in the eerie and unsettling environment are horrifying monsters roaming around. Struck with fear, Hajime witnesses a bloody slaughter and some monsters killing each other for survival. That is when one of them notices Hajime slicing his arm off. Hajime somehow escapes death by burying himself in a tiny hole. Watching things get hopeless with every passing minute, Hajime starts reminiscing about his life and how he and some of his class fellows got transported into this fantasy world. Everyone received special powers, but for how lackluster his ability was, he was mocked and looked down at. Some even hated him so much that he was pushed into the pit by one of his classmates when Hajime tried to save Shirasaki, a girl from his class. Deciding that he had had enough of this life, Hajime decides to go on a hunt. He takes down 2 beast wolves, which he eats raw. However, as the meat goes inside his body, it mixes with his DNA, granting him magical powers of the wolves that he ate. With that discovery, he starts plundering more and more monsters for survival and power. In the kingdom where Nagumo and his class fellows got teleported, there was 3 different races living by. These include the humans, beastmen, and demons. Humans and demons have been involved in a bloody war against each other for centuries. However, with demons taking control over the beastmen, the balance of power tips in favor of demons, driving humankind near extinction. To save the humans from their impending doom, heroes were summoned to thwart the demons and bring about balance. Waking up from her slumber, Shirasaki frantically looks around, scanning for Hajime as she recalls the events of the labyrinth. Upon hearing the news of him not surviving, she breaks into tears. Meanwhile, Hajime goes about his routine of feasting upon raw monster meat and looking for a way out of the chasm. Traveling 50 floors down the pit, Hajime comes across a sealed room guarded by 2 huge monsters. Watching him come closer to the sealed room, the monsters attack Hajime but are easily taken down by his newfound powers. He then proceeds to open the seal with mana balls when he sees an incredibly enchanting girl. The girl then proceeds to tell her story of being betrayed by her own people for being immortal and having special magical powers. Finding her in the same situation as his own, Hajime decides to save her and gives her the name of Yue after her persistence. However, their moment is interrupted by an attack from behind with Hajime protecting Yue. A noxious creature throws its spikes at Hajime and Yue, who dodge it, and another battle begins. With most of Hajime's attacks not working due to the monster's tough skin, Yue sucks some blood from Hajime and casts a huge mana ball considered to be an A-class magic, with which they are finally able to take the beast down. On the other hand, the Pope orders the heroes to once again go down the labyrinth to fight the monsters in order to get stronger. Back with Hajime, the pair start getting attached to each other. However, they soon find themselves in trouble again. This time, they are up against a mind-controlling flower that has scattered pollen in the air, which is used to confuse its prey. In the meantime, Yue gets captured and a flower grows on top of her head as she helplessly watches about. Against the odds, Hajime shoots down the flower and rescues Yue. The pair then decides to go all the way down to level 100 and open the mystifying doors to a whole new adventure. As they approach level 100, what seems to be the final layer of the labyrinth, both of them hold hands and proceed to fight the final boss. As they enter the lair, they are greeted by a 6-headed dragon which immediately goes on the offensive after sighting the pair. The dragon is created in perfect balance, one head to defend, one head to heal while the others attack. They give Hajime an incredibly tough time as it makes it incredibly complicated for him to attack as the dragons heal and defend each other continually. While one of the dragons puts Yue into a stupor, making her believe that she has been sealed again with Hajime abandoning her. A howl of anguish erupts from Yue as she goes unconscious. Kissing her soft lips, Hajime comes to her rescue and promises her that they will go home together. The dragon proves to be a deadly foe, almost leading to Hajime's demise, but at last, with the help of Yue, they are able to turn the dragon into ashes. Meanwhile, on the surface, things are starting to heat up as the Pope again orders everyone to go down the labyrinth and start fighting tougher enemies. As the fierce battle against the 6-headed dragon ends, Hajime falls unconscious to the ground. Their victory makes the mysterious door to open, when Yue drags Hajime's body to a mansion. She then cleans him up and sleeps with him on the bed. Upon waking up, he finds out about the situation and decides to explore the mansion with Yue to look for any leads. In a room, they come across the corpse of a man sitting on a chair. Hoping to find answers, Hajime stands on a key-like structure in the center of the room. The pattern glows bright purple, revealing an image of a young man. The mysterious man introduces himself as Oscar Orcus, the creator of the labyrinth. He congratulates the pair for successfully clearing all the levels of the labyrinth and bestows his magical power on Hajime in a hope that he won't use them for evil. On the other hand, the heroes make their way to level 65 and come across the same monster which halted their progress last round. The incident which resulted in Hajime falling into the abyss. Much stronger and well-trained this time, they defeat the monster effortlessly. While Hajime and Yue decide to stay for 2 more months inside the labyrinth, given the complexity of the Maverick's power and knowledge, after which they finally transport to the surface. The pair reaches the surface unharmed, where they immediately meet a Beastmen girl with rabbit ears named Shia. She introduces herself to Hajime and Yue, asking them for help to save her family. Initially, both of them ignore Shia, as Hajime does not seem interested in helping anyone. However, she tells her future sight abilities to them and guarantees that she will help to guide them to the next labyrinth, which manages to persuade Yue, who agrees to help her. With that, Hajime and Yue help to demolish the predators that bully the Halia Beast tribe. Furthermore, Hajime teaches them how to fight so that they won't have to rely on help from others. As promised, Shia leads them to the Great Tree, but they are unable to access the dungeon due to incomplete requirements. They then set out to find the other labyrinths, with Shia tagging along despite Hajime being totally against it. Despite all the criticism from Hajime, Shia proves her worth by finding Miladia Raisin's labyrinth. But with her irritating behavior and screams, she is a handful for both of them. The three then proceed to complete the hurdles of the labyrinth that come their way, but for some reason they keep coming back to the point where they started from. Out of stamina and patience, Hajime breaks through the final door, which opens the path to Milady's chamber. Waiting for them on the other side, where dozens of knights are ready to attack, but the trio is able to beat them with relative ease. With that, the final boss, Milady, shows up, laden with complete artillery, armor, and firepower. The trio is again able to beat her with impressive combined teamwork. After getting defeated, Milady hands over another labyrinth ring to the gang and kicks them out of the labyrinth. After reaching a town, the head of the Furin Adventurers Guild appeals to Hajime and his group for a mission to rescue some missing adventurers, among which is the son of Count Kudeta. Not wanting to expose his group to danger, Hajime dismisses his request, but Ilware comes up with an enticing offer of saving Hajime and his group if they get in trouble with the guild. After hearing this, Hajime accepts his request and sets out to save the adventurers. The group has a brief stop at the lake town of where Hajime happens to meet his former teacher, who breaks down after recognizing him from his voice. Overjoyed by the fact that her students survived, however, heartbroken by his cold attitude towards her. Later, in seclusion, he meets and tells her his current status and everything that happened to him until that point, and his future plan of locating all the labyrinth rings and going back home. This, however, does not satisfy his sensei, who is determined to know more about her student's life. She proposes to help in search for the lost adventurers, to which Hajime agrees. Both parties reach the forest when Hajime releases his human-locating automation called Ornis. Luckily, the Ornis is able to locate the missing armor and some foot impressions. Following the foot impressions, they find the unconscious Will Kudeta. In a sniveling voice, he tells them about the black dragon which assaulted them, which resulted in the death of his comrades. The same black dragon reappears after them and a fierce battle begins. Hajime is able to beat the dragon at the end with relative ease. I mean, considering the beast he had fought back in the abyss, this wasn't anything out of the ordinary. To calm the dragon down, he plays a vile trick by sticking a rod in the dragon's ass, which he is successful in. The dragon then transforms into a human girl and starts talking about how a sorcerer controlled her mind, making her do all the terrible things, and that it was not out of her own will. She also warns about the sorcerer making an army of monsters. It seems that she was telling the truth, as Hajime notices an army of monsters on their way to attack the town of At the end of the commotion, Tio starts begging Hajime to include her in his party because apparently almost every girl Hajime comes across wants to join his party. Hajime gives no direct answer to her and heads towards the battlefield. After a heart-touching speech to the defenders of his trio and the perverted dragon girl get ready for battle. Bravely fighting the monsters, Hajime looks to find the mastermind behind the attack, in which he is successful. It was a young kid named Shimizu, who upon questioning tells everyone about the reasoning behind his attack. He replies about killing Hatayama-sensei being the main purpose of his attack. Obsessed with his greed for power, he stabs Hatayama-sensei with a poisonous needle. However, once again Hajime saves the day by giving holy water to Sensei, after which he kills Shimizu. A band of men in the sewers capture a merfolk child in order to sell her off. Hajime and Shia decide to go on a date as promised by Hajime due to her recent achievements on the battlefield. Staying true to his word, both start walking around the city. On the tour, he senses a feeble child down in the sewers whom he rescues. However, deciding not to take on any more responsibilities, he drops her off in the care of the city guard to send her back to her family. Barely any time passes when he drops her off when he finds out that she has been kidnapped again by the same gang. Boiling with anger, Hajime and his companions wreak havoc in town in order to search the bandits' hideout. Upon finding their hideout, Hajime mercilessly destroys the bandits and adopts little Miyu, who has gotten very attached to him. Showing her skills with a bike, Shia moves along with the rest of the gang, making their way toward the outpost town of Dorad, handing a letter to one of the guild leaders written by Ilwar himself about their next big adventure. However, on their journey, they get interrupted by Endo, one of Hajime's former classmates. Flustered, Endo begs Hajime for help as he explains the situation of his classmates getting attacked by a demon on the 90th floor of the labyrinth. Hajime's classmates are met by an extremely powerful foe with the ability to control other monsters in the vicinity. She offers everyone to join her side if they want to make it out alive, but is met with stark resistance. Waiting for their impending doom, help arrives in the shape of Hajime. Upon finding out about Hajime, all of his classmates are equally stunned, and not only that, they find him extremely stronger and a completely transformed man. Without breaking a sweat, Hajime defeats the monsters one by one, after which he finally finds their ringleader and kills her as well, despite her testimony of her powers being borrowed. After this, all of them leave the pit well and sound and rejoice their victory. Shirasaki, who was most relieved by Hajime's return and had promised to protect him before falling into the pit, asks Hajime to let her on the journey with him, to which Yue agrees. But will she be able to tell Hajime about her secret feelings for him? Only time will tell, but for now, the story comes to a halt with a happy ending.